Well, now the time is 29 minutes to 4, and time for the second in the classical guitar series presented by John Williams. Guitar Notes.
In this programme, I'm going to look at the guitar in Spain during the first half of the 20th century, and in particular the influence of Segovia. The guitar was very much on the periphery of the main musical developments of the 19th century because its small volume and intimate character wasn't suited to the ever larger venues in which the piano, the orchestra and opera flourished. But its spirit was kept alive by various guitarist composers and their enthusiastic fans. The father of the modern Spanish guitar tradition was Francisco Tarrega, who was born in 1852. He's most well known, not just to guitarists but to the general public, for a very famous and beautiful piece of music called Recuerdos de la Alhambra, Memories of the Alhambra. And here is a very old recording of Andres Segovia playing it. Tarrega's Recuerdos de la Alhambra, played by Segovia. One of Tarrega's pupils was a man called Miguel Llobet. He was a Catalan, and he was slightly older than Segovia, but in a sense he was also a contemporary of Segovia's. He was a very great player. He made many gramophone recordings during the 1920s and 30s, and he also had a similar repertoire to Segovia. He played arrangements of the Spanish composers, the piano pieces by Albéniz and Granados, and he played arrangements of 19th century classical and romantic piano pieces. And he also played some of his own music, in particular arrangements of Catalan folk songs. He wrote a whole set of those, beautiful arrangements of rather wonderful tunes. Here's a record of Llobet playing one of those called Plani. was Llobet playing one of his own arrangements of beautiful Catalan folk song Plani. The big, shall we call it, advance in guitar playing and really the presentation of the guitar to the general public came with Segovia. One of the reasons, if not the main reason, was not only was he a great musician and extraordinary player, but the sound that he made provided the basis for his success in what he did. He made a quite beautiful sound which projected wonderfully, and this is almost entirely due to his use of nails. Whether guitarists used the flesh of their right-hand fingers or the nails has long been a debate, or had long been a debate, going back hundreds of years. But certainly with the 20th century and slightly larger concert halls where guitarists were going to be playing instead of the old salon or small music room, the ability to project not only the volume of the sound but to project the actual variation in tone colour which comes with the very clean attack of nails, this was all crucial, and Segovia established this, we can call it main road or highway for the 20th century, in which everything else has followed. At the beginning of his career, Segovia's repertoire was very much based on the same material that Llobet's was. Arrangements of 19th century classical and romantic piano pieces, the odd movement from a string quartet by Haydn or Mozart, and a lot of Spanish piano music arranged for the guitar, pieces by Albéniz and Granados. My own favourite of all these is his recording of the Spanish Dance No. 10 by Granados. It's a wonderful example of his personality and the wonderful tone that he made. Segovia playing Spanish Dance No. 10 by Granados. But of course, it's not only Segovia and that generation who were playing all this Spanish music. It stayed as a part of the core repertoire for guitarists. And many guitarists play it in their own way, and in fact have done fresh transcriptions, fresh arrangements. One of my favourite recordings is by a Cuban guitarist, Manuel Barrueco. He now lives in the States. And he made a recording of Granados and Albéniz, including a lot of arrangements that, as far as I know, no one had done before. And a particularly impressive one, which I was really knocked out with when I first heard it. I then heard him play it exactly like it is on the record at the Wigmore Hall in a recital, so it's not an example of clever editing. He played it exactly as well as he did it on record. Catalunya from the Suite Española by Albéniz. That was Catalunya by Albéniz and played by Manuel Barrueco. Many of the pieces by Albéniz and Granados seem to belong more to the guitar than to their original instrument, the piano. Asturias, for example, is certainly better known on the guitar. Etc. Another, Sevilla, really sounds as if it is originally for guitar. And in a sense it is, because the dance rhythm on which it is based, the sevillanas, is one of the most important flamenco dances, in which the guitar is the traditional and inseparable instrument. The piece by Albéniz is often played in quite a classical style, a bit like this. But I often feel that this style misses some of the vitality and exuberancy of the original popular dance rhythm. A few years ago I discussed this question with the flamenco guitarist Paco Peña when we were filming part of a documentary. We thought it would be fun to see how the piece by Albéniz went with the traditional flamenco version, and it sounded really good. The most famous piece for guitar in the 20th century is undoubtedly the Concierto de Aranjuez by Joaquin Rodrigo. It's very strange, however, and not many people know this, that Segovia, the great Segovia, never played this piece. And there have been many theories and a lot of speculation put forward as to why he didn't. I happen to know that there are a few technical reservations he had about it, probably to do with him not liking some of the popular language of it, for instance, the opening strumming of the piece itself. Also, he had reservations about the top register of the guitar. There are a lot of the notes are very, very high, like... And that didn't fit a lot of the ideas of guitar colour that was his style. I think it's a great shame because these are parts of the wide range of colour of the guitar. I think they just expressed, in his case, something that was a little bit too popular and not quite as refined in the classical sense as he preferred. But there were other reasons. The piece was written for and dedicated to Regino Sainz, Maza, who was a very fine teacher and performer, a Spanish guitarist who lived most of his life in Madrid. And in fact, Sainz Maza was in Spain after the Civil War, during the Franco period, and when the piece was written in 1939-1940, Regino Sainz Maza was there and Segovia was in South America. Although Segovia was not actually an exile for political reasons, it was for personal reasons that he was outside Spain for many years. But the piece, of course, has become a standard, an evergreen. It's most famous, of course, for its lovely second movement tune, which was used most famously by Miles Davis in the Sketches of Spain. And in fact, it was probably the Miles Davis version which brought it to a wider audience. However, the original sounds a bit like this. Well, that was me playing there with Daniel Barenboim conducting the English Chamber Orchestra. Many years later, Segovia did return to Spain. He was basically domiciled there for the last 20, 30 years of his life. And during that period, he struck up a great friendship with Rodrigo, who then followed up by writing another concerto called the Fantasia para un gentilhombre, Fantasia for a Gentleman, which is written in fitting style for Segovia, who by that time was becoming the grand old man of the guitar. It's a really lovely piece based on 17th century popular tunes, Spanish tunes. I think there are about 4 or 5 different dance tunes used in it. Let's have a listen to the opening. The first movement, the Villano from the Fantasia para un gentilhombre, played by Segovia. The last movement is called Canarios, very popular dance of the 17th century, actually originally from the Canary Islands. The Canarios, the last movement from Rodrigo's Fantasy for a Gentleman, played by Segovia. All the tunes in the Fantasy are based on popular 17th century dances, arranged originally as solo guitar pieces by the Spanish guitarist-composer Gaspar Sanz, and they were most of them published in the late 17th century. There is a wonderful recording by the Spanish guitarist José María Gallardo del Rey of a suite of all these old dances, and he plays them in very much what one thinks of as the original popular style, very light and rhythmic, lots of bounce and energy in it. And I'd like to finish the program with the Canarios, played by José María Gallardo del Rey. That was the Canarios by Gaspar Sanz and played by José María Gallardo del Rey. In the next programme I'll be looking at English guitar music and in particular the persuasive influence of Julian Bream.
Guitar Notes with John Williams was produced for BBC Radio 3 by Alan Shipton for Unique, the production company.